Hello, Horror Fanatics!
I'm Frank.
And I'm Jen. And we welcome you to our weekly podcast,
Oh! The Horror! Thank you for joining us as we dive deep into all things horror, supernatural, scary, and downright creepy.
If you like what you hear, rate, review, and subscribe or follow to add us to your regular rotation of podcasts.
You can also submit any ideas, comments, and suggestions to our email address at oth@seriouslydecent.com. And you can check out our website at ohthehorrorpodcast.com. You can catch our back catalog. You can catch our social media links through Facebook group and Instagram, and whatever else we got cranking around on there.
Do we have other stuff?
I think so, but I can't remember off the top of my head. And then there's the podcast platforms that you can connect to.
Yeah.
All your popular ones. We're everywhere. And if we're not, let us know.
Yeah. If there's somewhere we need to be,
we'll be
let
there.
us know. Yeah.
We'll be there.
Might not be so bright-eyed or bushy-tailed, but we will be there.
I know. This is what, take 3? Something like that? Take 3 on the intro. We haven't gone far in it, but, you know, yeah. This is what happens.
This is going to be good.
This is what happens when we draw this out too late.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And now we're in trouble.
Yeah. When I'm in trouble.
It might head my way, but I love this subject, so I can't wait to get into it, and we're going to get into it right now. Season 3, episode 125, the next part of our Scientology kind of progression here, the bridge.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you are listening to this and you haven't heard our Scientology episodes.
And you're like, wait, what?
So we have Scientology, the overview.
Yep.
L. Ron Hubbard.
Yep.
The Sea Org.
Yep.
And now we're getting into the bridge.
Yep.
And after the bridge, we're going to have fair game.
Yep. And we will.
And then we'll put a bow on it.
Yeah.
Until any kind of news comes.
I'm not touching this again unless David Miscavige gets arrested. Yeah. Then I will happily revisit it. But man,
if I dig up some stuff, I have no problem doing it.
Okay.
So, yeah. What's the bridge? Well, first off, hold on a second, Frank. It's Scientology. So our disclaimer now, as we've always done, if Scientology, anybody that's listening through there, and we've made some errors or issues on things.
If there are some errors or omissions, please refer to...
Please email us at oth@seriouslydecent.com.
And we will file it accordingly.
Yeah, we'll put it in a pre-roll.
Yep.
So, what is the bridge?
I'm betting there's trolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to discuss your sources?
I have sources. I have Scientology.org. Background and basic principles. What is the bridge in Scientology? And then globalnews.ca. Leah Remini, Scientology, Bridge to Total Freedom.
Okay. I have whatiscientology.org. I have Scientology.org. California State did a kind of thing on the bridge, so I did that. Global News, Tony Ortega, just to get some splash of different things, and grunge.com. But I figure we'll start right off with what Scientology says the bridge is.
Yeah.
So right from their website, many higher states of existence are available to man, and these are attainable through Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard provided a precise delineation of these states and then clarified how they could be attained by arranging them on a chart which graphically showed each step of the route upward. The chart that shows the graduations to spiritual betterment is called the classification, gradation, and awareness chart. Classification refers to training in Scientology and the fact that certain actions are required or skills attained before an individual is classified as an auditor at any particular level and allowed on to the next class. Gradation refers to the gradual improvement spiritually that occurs in Scientology auditing. Man, in his religious tradition, has long imagined a bridge across the chasm between where one is now and a higher plateau of existence. Unfortunately, many of those attempting to cross the chasm fell into the abyss. Employing this metaphor, the classification, gradation, and awareness chart represents, in fact, the bridge which spans the chasm and brings one to the higher plateau. This is the vision man has cherished for at least 10,000 years, and it is now attainable by following the steps as laid out on the chart. The chart is a guide for the individual from their first awareness of Scientology to each higher state. Man has never before had such a map. It's the bridge to total freedom.
It is.
It is the route. It is exact and has a standard progression. One walks it and one becomes free.
Except they don't. They just become poorer.
Yeah, so they call this the bridge to basically total freedom, or simply just called the bridge. It's these parallel paths. There's two of them. Mm-hmm. There's training and processing. Processing addresses Scientologists' case or how they function in life as influenced by their aberrations. The training path teaches Hubbard's theories on the nature of life and the universe and the techniques of auditing. Participants feel that this knowledge greatly enhances their ability to be effective in life, whether they audit another or not. Scientologists can travel up either side of the bridge, and many do both sides. Mm-hmm. You know, so if you're going for the gold,
yeah,
the ultimate cleardom, but although not part of the formal bridge, the chart also lists many optional courses and training actions that can be done by Scientologists. So I have a graphic of the actual whole entire bridge.
The bridge, yeah.
I was going to post it on the Facebook group so people can look at it. If you're a Scientologist fan, you've probably seen it or a version of it. This is actually from Scientology.
Yeah.
So there you have it. But it's these parallel paths, and you start on these levels, level 0 being the lowest, and you start going up. And eventually, you're trying to reach a clear status and then become what's known as an operating thetan.
Yes.
That's the 5,000-foot view, the Reader's Digest version of it. Scientologists believe that if an individual is unable to ascend through the bridge in this lifetime, that the journey up the bridge can be continued in another life. Mm-hmm. So generally, Scientologists, they spend a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
On reaching the end of the bridge. Materials and courses can take about a total of anywhere, numbers have been told, of about $350,000 to $500,000 to complete the course.
Leah Remini on the Scientology and the Aftermath, they actually, she and Mike broke this down pretty effectively, and they went dollars and cents with it. The whole point of ascending the bridge to total freedom is they're told that by making their way through this bridge and they become quote unquote clear, that essentially it opens yourself up to everything and you almost become like a superhero. Like you're supposed to get like these amazing powers, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just doesn't happen. So,
well, it starts benign though.
Yeah.
It really does.
But Leah and Mike say it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for an individual to spend approximately $500,000 to reach the top tiers of the bridge. As you get higher in Scientology Church, you're expected to consistently take courses. Beginner courses cost around $650, escalating into the thousands as you get higher to reach the OT levels, which are the operating thetan levels. Not only that, but you're concurrently shelling out money for audits at $800 an hour and Dianetics books, a package of which costs on average $4,000. So along the way, Scientology is consistently updating these course materials. So even if you reach the top, chances are you're looking at additional courses and more spending.
Yeah. So that's where the floor is about like $300,000 just to do it.
Yeah.
That's not repeating anything. But then when they change the materials and things like that, and they won't change it. Here's the thing. They can't change it a ton because it's L. Ron Hubbard's words.
Right.
And so they can't change that. So what they'll do is they'll change just a few things to make it technically different.
Yeah.
And that's how they price gouge.
Yeah.
These
like
people
Leah
out.
said, it's essentially they just go through and re-edit the things, you know, like move a period, add a comma.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's essentially the same thing. She's like, it's the same version that I had. She's like, I have 5 versions of this same thing.
Yeah.
I think they've redone Dianetics at least 5 or 6 times, and she's got every version. She goes, and there's no noticeable difference between the first copy and the last copy.
Yeah.
But you have to keep buying the materials.
Yeah.
You have to keep getting them because, you know, you have to have the latest and the greatest. And I remember on the Aftermath, she opened up, it was a closet, and it was just full of binders.
Yeah.
With her quote unquote course materials. And then she had in her garage, like the cases with the books. And she's like, I've got millions. She goes, I've probably got $1 million worth of books here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you get somebody that has, I'm not going to say unlimited income, but a lot of working cash
that's why
flow.
they
and that's why they
latch on
go.
the
That's why they go
celebrities.
after these. So the celebrities is not just only name brand recognition
Yeah.
and it's good PR, but also there's the money that they're getting out of them.
Yep.
And yeah,
Like Leah said, she paid for her mother, her husband.
yeah. I
Like
mean,
she was paying for like 5 or 6 people to go up the bridge.
yeah.
Along with herself.
Yeah. So that's how it works in the family end, you know, and then here's the thing. If you don't have the money, you can go through in the Sea Org and they'll do that. But you basically sell everything you have to get into the Sea Org.
Yeah.
And they take everything you have.
Yeah, Mike
and then you
actually-
turn in, and that gets more into what we were talking about in the last episode with the Sea Org. This is why we had this this escalation path through here. You know, the Sea Org, they took your passport, they took your
they took
identity,
everything, yeah.
they take everything. And so you're doing all this. And then they found out, even when they were on there, they never really had much time to study.
Yeah, Mike did the Sea Org route, and he never got to do, any of the things they told him he would be doing in the Sea Org, and 2, he never got any money. He couldn't. He didn't have time to go to work on the courses, but he did at one point. It was probably when he was office.
They moved him out.
Yeah, they moved him they moved him within the Sea Org, and then they created new.
No, but that's when they were hitting
orgs,
land, so to speak, and that's because they were having all these problems with international waters. Again, the Sea Org episode cuts that up in detail. However, yeah, he did go all the way up to the top of the bridge.
He and Leah both.
Do we want to go through all of it? Because I have it listed all
Go
out,
for
the
it.
different grades. So basically, your introductory stuff, you're looking at grade 0 to 4. And basically, this is getting into just basically, they purport incredible things that you can do involving receiving and following a series of hundreds and hundreds of commands. And basically, it ends in a revelation that breaks down whatever barriers are in a person's way. So this is kind of stripping the person down. So grade 0 focuses on communication, and finishing the grade is said to give a person the ability to successfully and easily communicate with any other person on any topic possible. And this is basically just, there's a lot of stuff like this out now. This is where it's very benign. It starts very innocent. You know, you could take a coaching course, like a life coaching course, or, you know, somebody coaching you through handling situations and people and public speaking and things like that. And it would offer this very same thing. Nothing crazy here. So grade 0 focuses on communication. From there, grade 1 is where the pre-clear, because you're not clear yet, is reportedly taught to recognize the source of problems and obstacles and make them disappear. And this is just kind of handling shit in your life. And again, like I said, you go on their website, it's these regular types of courses. Seems very inviting. Seems like it could change your life. And it could in the beginning. It has to sell on a premise of a good idea.
Yeah.
All these things do.
Yeah.
From, you know, all of the ones that we started with, every single one of them, they were helping people originally. Then there's a bridge, and then that's where your cognitive dissonance gets going, where you have to jump over something to get to where you are. So, you know, for example, we mentioned it on the Sea Org real quick, where all of the hype, all of the stuff shattered immediately the moment they walked on to one of those boats.
Yeah.
But they sat in just great example of cognitive dissonance. The cause is worth it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter with any of these things.
They're clearing the planet.
The cause is worth it. So grade 2 is meant to pinpoint the source of the kind of suffering we experience on a daily basis and remove it. 3 is meant to free a person from guilt or distress stemming from past experiences and actions. And it's also meant to convince a person that there is no need to keep anything a secret. You know, so this is where it's starting to break away on things because it's all absolutely fine. Grade 4 is where things start to get interesting. And this is a level that releases a person from constraints, opens them up to new experiences. And also when the pre-clear is taught how to make any person agree with them. So this is again getting into...
So that's why Danny Masterson couldn't have sexually assaulted those girls. He just made them agree with him.
Correct.
Got it.
And in a Scientologist's mind, that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, it just... They agreed. You know, so this, just again to get into it, the bridge to total freedom hasn't been changed throughout the history of Scientology. And now you get into like the Dianetics level of the bridge has been offered before and after through grades 0 and 4. The current orders offers there are 2 Dianetic levels. There's New Era Dianetics and Expanded Dianetics. And this is kind of immediately after grade 4. And this is all the stuff they kind of layered in, and you're like, oh, you're at 8? Well, you got to get back to this because it's changed, you know. So you got Dianetics is defined as a spiritual healing technology. That was the whole purpose of the book. And the belief is basically that passing through these levels will free a person from the burden of unwanted thoughts and emotions. The idea is that a person's troubled, immortal soul subjects the body to all kinds of burdens, and following the instructions laid out in Dianetics is the way you free yourself. Scientology doctrine says that there are a few things that happen to a person that's going through the Dianetics level. Some simply become a well and happy pre-clear, is what they'll call it, while others achieve the state of clear during this level. And here's where things get even more confusing. Some advance to clear levels. Others who don't achieve clear during Dianetics take another branch of the chart that involves things like grade 5, grade 5A, and this basically deal with teaching a person how to handle power. It's kind of like a fork in the road to going clear. You know, if you're not be able to do that, you got this spot here because heaven forbid they kick you out of it.
Yeah.
You know, and again, this is when your common sense should be digging in when you're into this. But if you're fully into the idea, the principle, and you're not looking at the details, this is where your cognitive dissonance will cover and put blinders on you. So yeah, this fork in the road on going to clear, this is like the most important stepping stone to gaining access to these what are called operating thetan levels in Scientology. Yep. So let's just get about going clear for a second. Clear is the most famous piece of Scientology teachings, and according to their official definition, it's undefinable. Coincidence, right?
Of course.
Yeah. You know, specifically, Scientologists say the full glory, this is a quote, the full glory of the state of clear has no comparable description in any writings existing in our culture, unquote. That's just word vomit. It's all it is. And this is where you start getting into the full writings of that. It's just word vomit.
It's essentially stating that there is nothing else written that can so effectively change your life in a positive way, with the exception of this one writing. This is the only writing.
This is the only writing.
that can reach you, help cure you, and help make you a better person.
So, what does that exactly mean? And clear, they explain, is a state where a person loses what they call the reactive mind.
Yes.
Teachings say that the mind is made up of two parts. The reactive mind, as the name suggests, is a primal part of the mind that reacts to stimuli, while the analytical mind is the rational, conscious, aware mind. Going clear in the reactive mind disappears. And that's the point of going clear, is your reactive mind, this emotional mind.
Which is funny, because the guy who created this was all reactive mind through his entire life.
Look at Tom Cruise.
All reactive
mind. I mean, it's like you're just bullshitting yourself on a level that's insane. And again, if you're an outsider looking at this, but if you were born into this, this is all you know.
Right, yeah.
And you have this baked in your cake, so to speak, from the moment you're able to just listen and determine anything. And the worst part is it's not even coming from your parents, because your parents don't raise you.
No, that's like Mike Rinder's kids. Like, they were literally born into Scientology. Both parents were in the Sea Org, and they didn't. Like in Mike's book, he breaks it out pretty clearly. Yeah. And it's sad and it's heartbreaking, because like you talk about absentee parents, and he's like, we were. Yeah. We weren't there. We were never there with our kids. No. We were never there for each other.
And you're not supposed to be. Yeah. That's how the system is.
You're there for the church.
Well, you're there for the church, but it separates and it isolates you. Yeah. And that's the problem. That's the problem with a group that you represent. If your group is dealing with isolation, especially in your group, if it's putting you into different categories, because that's the whole thing with the bridge. Yeah. This is the genius of it. I'm going to give it its credit for where it's due. It keeps people segmented and not together. And that's where Scientology does this while sounding together. Yeah. We are clearing the planet. Yeah. We are doing this. Together. Okay, then let's do it. Well, no. You're only level 2. Yeah.
Hey, but fun fact.
3, a few more grand and you can clear up through 4 and you can get into the real heavyweight stuff.
Fun fact, if we're both on the bridge and you're ahead of me, say I'm just 4, I'm in 4th grade, and you're past Dianetics
and
you're in your
OT.
And your OTs.
OT levels, yeah.
If you start talking to anyone about what you're learning on that level, there's $100,000 fine.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's what
Mind your business.
No, and that's what I'm getting at. So this is where, again, the genius of it. You got the money scheme of it coming in here. You got the money penalties, but you have the overarching type thing. But they're all broken into these separate groups. The 0s through 4s are a separate group. The Dianetics end, even if you can't go clear, you got to go 5A and 5B. These are all separate groups. So now you're isolated, you're alone. And then, all of this is leading up to the Whopper, the fair game part of it, where they fair game everyone and themselves. And so when you're isolated and you're alone and you don't trust anybody around you, that's a bad group to be in. Yeah. This is where, like, love finds a way. It really does. When you start trusting people and you're able to share experiences, because if I can't share what I'm going through,
what I'm experiencing,
you could tell me, hey, you know what? That doesn't make much sense. Yeah. And you could convince me to say, so everybody's got to stay in their lane. Everybody's got to stay in their hole. And this is where it gets really, really, in my opinion, interesting. The psychology of this is incredible. Yeah.
Leo is saying, even in the beginning, like grades 1 and 2, once completing the course, you're supposed to be able to eradicate sickness from your body or develop other supernatural abilities. Remini and her guests reference lofty Scientology claims that you could potentially gain the powers of telekinesis, for example, if you successfully completed the ample auditing sessions and moved up the bridge. And then they state, for the record, no one on the aftermath panel or on the show who were very senior positions within Scientology, not one of them had ever once seen anyone, not only themselves, but anyone move up the bridge and gain any sort of extraordinary powers of any kind.
Yeah. No, it's so L. Ron Hubbard initially said that, just to get back into this reactive mind concept, what he was initially saying was the reactive mind recorded memories from every life lived by the spirit.
Right.
And those memories. And those are called engrams.
Right.
Or engrams. And they're basically the source of most of our problems. So the processing of auditing, where he brought in auditing with the cans and everything, the process of auditing erases those engrams. And an engram-free mind was clear. So, getting rid of the word vomit salad of definition of clear and everything, it's getting rid of these engrams. So, basically, there was a bit of a change from the initial version Hubbard published in Dianetics, and originally engram clearing could be done in between 20 to 100 hours of running drills with another interested party, and clear could be obtained. But today, Scientology requires years of study, hundreds of pages of materials, and tens of thousands of dollars to achieve clear.
Yes.
Cost, this is the Miscavige era. Miscavige just pumping the money out of it. And costs are somewhat difficult to pin down, but just to get clear, you're looking at about $150,000 to $200,000.
Yeah, and you have to hit clear before you can move on to the OT levels.
To the OT levels.
Which are all confidential.
Yeah. So now, well,
Leah's mother said it took her nearly 2 years to hit clear.
Yeah, that's where, I'm getting into is like, so you look at a timeline now. If you had the money and you were able to pay for the books and the courses and everything, you're looking at a couple years to get to this.
Yeah.
Now, if not, and you had to go through the Sea Org, it's even longer.
Yeah.
And you got to put up with all the bullshit in the Sea Org.
Right.
And again, listen to the other episode of the Sea Org and you get all of that to connect us through. I'm so glad we did this in separate pieces, because we really got like a really nice big picture of how this goes through. But yeah, you're looking at a situation now where how does all this auditing work? And now this is where solo auditing comes in. And again, I think this is like brilliant, because auditing is basically the key practice in Scientology.
Yes.
It's the foundation of it. And according to the official teachings, it's a series of questions given by an auditor and written in a way that's supposedly designed to help pinpoint problem areas in a person's life. So while auditing at lower levels of the bridge is done on a one-on-one basis with an auditor, those who have gone clear have to learn how to audit themselves. And that's where this OT operating Thetan prep levels and solo courses come into play here. And basically you get to a point where you're holding these cans and you're doing it on a one-on-one basis and you're holding the cans and I turn to you and say, what do you think of X? And, if you give an answer and I see a little blip on the can, because that's all this can does is measure electricity.
Yeah.
Could be anything.
Yeah.
Could be anything in the world that would make this thing blip. But, I saw a blip.
What's going on?
What's going on? We got to get into this, and
what are you thinking about? What are you stressing
about?
Yeah.
So now you're starting to go through and you're giving yourself this therapy, so to speak, but there's no guardrails. There's no nothing.
Yeah.
Because they're saying that this could be in a whole nother life. It could be in a whole, you start talking to yourself and convincing yourself that you have this other life that you were in, and there's no proof of it whatsoever. There's no way to even determine such a thing, but the auditor just lets that go. Now, when you get into a point where you're self-auditing, that's crazy because you've got no guardrails. You've got it's the isolation in a cult, and cults have this amazing ability to make a group of people feel like they're one, but they're actually individually
and isolate them.
Isolated. And it's amazing. So Claire Headley was a former Sea Org worker and Scientologist. She left the group in like 2005.
Yep.
And she was on with Leah and Rinder's show, fairly often. But she was personally working with Tom Cruise, and she was telling Tony Ortega to explain what the solo auditing stage of the bridge is. And she explained that, in a nutshell, it was believed that a person with the correct training and help of an e-meter could learn to ask themselves questions, interpret their own responses, and essentially guide themselves on the way to overcome negative thoughts. It's bizarre. It's totally bizarre. There's no other thing like this at all. Because even meditation, like on a Buddhist level, meditation, you got to be careful with it. And they'll say you need a spiritual director, like a spiritual guide to help you with this, because you can really get lost in yourself. And, you consider the weight of L. Ron Hubbard's teachings to give to communication. This is essentially teaching people to silently think about things, which is the reactive mind. I mean, it's hysterical. So she explained, I think it's part of human nature to want to trust and believe in something so much, even when from an outside perspective, it simply defies all logic. And this is a whole big part, just to pull back a tiny bit, of everyone wants to be part of something big and larger than themselves. And when you're struggling with that and you're desperate or weak, just you're at a weak point in your life and something like this comes in, it can grab a hold of you and it can take you. And this is just not even getting to operating Thetan. This is 0 through 4 clear. Like I said, you've got 2 years of your life invested in this. You get 2 years of your life investing in things. And at this point in time, it's hard to pull out because you're like, I got 2 years of my life in this. I've got $200,000 invested in this. I need to see where this is going to go. And you have that picture of you're doing the right thing, and they flash that in your mind, and it's the annual conferences and all the propaganda that they throw in them that they're doing all this stuff. But this is, so you go through 0 through 4, you reach clear, you're getting into self-auditing at this point, and this is where OT1 and OT2 come into play. Yep. So basically, after getting an in-depth audit to make sure everything has been completed to Scientology standards, your next step of the journey is OT1. And Hubbard's instructions for completing OT1 are equally straightforward and weird. Starting with the first instructions. Walk around and count bodies until you have a cognition. Make a report saying how many you counted and your cognition. That's followed by a dozen similar instructions. And then basically that's to say to count things like male or female bodies and the cognition. And basically what Claire was saying is that didn't really matter what it was, just that a person went through the process. Yeah. So this is where it starts getting weird and weak. Yeah. So wait, I had to do all this crazy shit. And then I get into OT1 and I'm thinking, wow, I'm really going to break into stuff. And you just walk around and...
No, you're not.
You just walk around and do basic shit like that. It's really, really unbelievable. So now you get to OT2 and you're like, damn, I'm banging on all cylinders, And this is where the real, esoteric stuff comes in. And it all needs to be studied, entirely in order to do what Scientology describes as what's called confront the whole track, or these millions of years of existence. It involves a lot of things, but one of the big ones is the relentless, hours-long recital of head-spinning phrases like, to disagree is to agree is to disagree, and to hurt is to enjoy is to hurt. The idea is to help the person rid themselves of what's called goals problem mass, or they'll call them GPMs. And these are basically trillion-year-old speed bumps on humanity's way to a full potential. And then along the way, you're supposed to unlock hidden abilities, which requirements also say you're not allowed to disclose to anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the time you get to OT3, your materials are all in a briefcase that are attached to the Scientologist body, like handcuffed to you at all times. Yeah. And another Scientologist described OT3 as a type of exorcism because you're removing spiritual beings, quote unquote, attached to your body.
Yeah.
And they were saying that level itself, which is the next one after what you're talking about, is $30,000 to $40,000 per year.
Yeah.
And Scientologists literally spend a decade or decades working on that level.
Yeah, so you're getting up to OT3 now, and you know you're getting into almost the 10-year mark just about. And you know, along, like I said, this is where the maybe unlocking hidden abilities, but you can't talk about it to anybody. You can't disclose it.
Nope.
So this is one of the things where everybody's like, okay, maybe I'm the only one that's having these issues. And this is what human beings do. They internalize this crap.
Yeah.
Again, reactive mind.
Yeah.
And this is, again, just, I could talk about the bridge forever. The fact that getting rid of the reactive mind is the first steps. It's getting rid of this internal dialogue that you have. So you're sitting there saying, you know what, maybe I'm the only one that just doesn't have these hidden abilities. No, wait, that's my reactive mind. I got to do an audit session, and I got to get that out of me. And you're getting away, you're forcibly, actively participating in your own removal of your common sense and logic and things to think this through. It's freaking brilliant. I mean, it's amazing.
I admit, watching the aftermath when they were talking about the bridge and the materials, the confidential materials, and what they were learning. And to hear Leah and Mike, and then you're like, well, you know, okay, they left. You know, maybe they're a little jaded, but every person that comes on the show talking about their bridge experience, and they're like, you know, it was sold to us like we were going to end up like superheroes. Like we would have these magic abilities. Yeah. And they're like, and then when we get to the final end of it, they're like, ha ha ha, everything we told you.
Yeah, so OT3 comes into play. And this is where we're getting into top, you know, like all OT levels are top secret and confidential, but OT3 is this extra layer of secrecy. And again, you're getting into 10 years now.
Yeah.
You know, and again, this is where any kind of cognitive dissonance you have on this, you know, I mean,
you've
like,
got a briefcase.
No, but I mean,
handcuffed to you at this point.
Yeah, but this is the moment. This is the moment you've been waiting for. 10 years you got under your plate. You're 300K in. Yep. You know, and you're getting in now to the club. Yeah. Quote unquote. And so they'll you get into OT3, or they'll call the wall of fire, and basically Scientologists are promised that when they get to this level, they're going to be told the universe's last great secret. So this is the whole thing getting up. You're going to find just this huge secret, this huge, everything's going to get unlocked for you. And it's going to allow them to understand why the world is the way it is. So you've been told the whole time that the world is just full of problems, full of all this stuff. We're the answer. Yep. You're the answer. We are the answer. And we're moving together, except you. Give us 10 more grand. You know? Yeah. So you pay your 10 grand, you put, you know, more time in. You've got all this money, all this time. The secret is carried in a sealed briefcase, and only those who have reached OT3 have the appropriate clearance to see the documents. Fortunately, there are plenty of ex-Scientologists who are willing to reveal it for the rest of us. Yep. And this is where we get all of this, is from Scientologists. And the funny part is they all have the same story. Yep. It's the same experience. It's the same story. And this is where it really gives Scientology a hard leg to stand on with the rest of the outside world. But if you're born into this, it's tough. It's tough to get out. So basically, it's the story of an intergalactic confederation leader called Xenu, who solved his overpopulation problem by dumping 178 billion people on the planet Tagak, now known as Earth, and killing them all with a massive H-bomb. It's also at this point that most people out Scientology right now are rolling their eyes and wondering, how the hell could anyone believe this bullshit? You know, but these ex-Scientologists will tell you that, you know, basically some pointed out that aliens were no stranger than demons and angels in there. Others said they had already gone too far to back out. Again, this Rubicon moment, you know, and couple that with cognitive dissonance to talk yourself, just talk yourself back into it. You know, the end goal is the point, you know, the mission is the focus. Others simply explained that after years of immersion in Scientology rhetoric, it actually made sense. And this is where you get people that are born into it. And they're just like, yeah, okay.
Sure, why not?
That seems right. So now you're at OT3.
Yep.
You know, so now you're getting into 4 and 5. And, you know, before we get into that, another part of the big reveal of OT3 is that the spirits of those aliens that were nuked into oblivion by the warlord Xenu are crawling all over us in a very literal way.
Yes.
So according to, you know, other Scientologists that provide this information, they have to be removed along with all their negative energy.
Yep.
And in order for a person to reach that full potential, Scientology, you know,
you got to clear all those thetans.
You've got to clear all those thetans. So an older version of OT4 was superseded by a new one and published just before L. Ron Hubbard went into hiding.
Yep.
And it would remain in hiding until dying in 1986. Hubbard wrote that all the drugs that were ever used along the trillion-year track, that is the life of your body thetans, have built up in current incarnations, and it's just waiting to give someone a 1,000,000-year-old flashback. In other words, the thetans living on a person's body are addicts and need to be purified via more auditing, which is more money.
Yep.
You know, and it just keeps going and going. So now you get into OT5, and this comes with a huge promise. And that promise is those who complete it will not only learn the truth about the physical universe, but also be free of its laws. And this is done by a series of commands based around spot a spot in a room, spot a spot in your body, and then imagining different things happening to the different spots. And this is where you're just messing with your own mind at this point. I mean, you're just so hosed in. You're 10, 15 years into all of this.
Yeah.
You've chugged all the Kool-Aid imaginable to get
and
here.
And the Flavor Aid.
Yeah, I mean, you're again past this Rubicon moment of, you know, it's sad in a way, in my opinion. I mean, you know, so that's OT5. So now we get into 6 and 7. We're getting close. So by the time the average Scientologist reaches OT6, you're looking now at a cost at about $350,000.
Yep.
And what does one learn for all that? Scientologists have said that OT5 is where Scientology faithful learn to telepathically communicate with all of the body thetans that are still hovering around. Learning this form of communication, in theory, gets rid of them and frees up a person still further in their journey. And this is where, you know, one could say they're confronting their demons, so to speak.
I guess.
I mean, that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
They're just confronting their demons, for good or for worse, you know. But again, you know, it's just it's amazing when people are this far. You know, and like I said, being out of it, you know, it's just so hard to relate. But if you were born into this,
and
or even got in at a young age, and that's all you know, and you're just trouncing up through this, and you're in an environment that, again, is isolating you and showing your weaknesses of where you are and saying you could be a better person if you did this.
Yes.
It's a real tough situation.
Counterpoint, the people that have left Scientology they were all in it too. Some of them were in it.
Yeah.
You know, born into it or in it from the word jump.
Yeah.
And they just have that eye-opening moment where they're like, all of this is bullshit.
Well, and that's where you see their numbers of their membership. I mean, they're down. They're way down compared to the 70s and 80s when it was millions of people.
Yeah.
You know, I think now, what are they saying? It's like less than 50,000 people? Or
not if you ask the Church of Scientology.
No,
there's still millions of followers.
You know.
And being added every day.
Yeah, yeah.
From all across the globe.
Oh, yeah, because, I mean, you bump into them all the time. You know, they tell you all the time. So, yeah, so you get this this bit where, you know, you're doing this communication with body thetans, and you're, you know, freeing up on your journey. And then from there, that's where it's on to OT7. And this level is brief and complicated at the same time. Although there is not a lot that L. Ron Hubbard even wrote about this level.
No.
It's also the one that many people spend years on.
Yeah.
And you got to think about this at this point. I mean, like, you're already 10, 12 years, and you're spending more just on this one.
One level. Yeah.
And like other levels, there are a few different versions of OT7. So with the original asking people to go through a series of 49 commands, including things like decide something, or spot an acceptable energy source, or go to a zoo, or a place with many types of life and communicate with each of them until you know the communication is received and, if possible, returned. So maybe you just got to go to the zoo and find Scientologists. Maybe we're looking in the wrong spot.
Maybe.
I'm thinking. But another part of OT7 was learning how to place an intention into or on a being and or body, which is essentially the belief that someone's gaining the power to manipulate others into doing whatever they want. And this is kind of the area through here from research that I've done. OT6 and 7, you know, 5. I mean, 3 when you get the news.
Yeah, the Xenu.
Yeah, and really that's where, I mean, if you think about it, like if you're a Miscavige, once you're past OT3, you're mine. You know,
yeah.
I mean, you're mine. I can do whatever the fuck I want. You know, if you're into all this, and here's the thing, I firmly believe Miscavige drinks all of this. You know, he believes in all of it. He believes in absolutely all of it. But
I think he believes in his power.
No, you throw this and power on top of it, and you get this crazy fucking situation. You know, but I think, yeah, if you were to throw a gun to his head and say, really, is this bullshit? You know, and give him the trick, you know, he would say pull the trigger because this is what he believes in. Because again, he's doing this since he was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, the majority of his life he's been in this and the forefront of it, which is even crazier. So yeah, you're getting to the manipulation part. So now you get into OT8. And OT8 is the end. This is as far as it goes. And they say basically that when you reach OT8, you'll gain cause over matter, energy, space, and time, which translates to various superhuman abilities, including being impervious to disease. And basically, there's only one place to achieve this, and that's Free Winds, Scientology's cruise ship. And that's the only place to do that. You can't get it anywhere else. You have to go on Free Winds. OT8 was first offered 2 years after L. Ron Hubbard's death. And shortly after that, documents called the Fishman Papers were leaked to the public following a court case. Tony Ortega said that in the documents, Hubbard claimed that he was both the reincarnation of Buddha and at the same time the Antichrist. I agree with the latter.
Yeah.
Those claims have been corroborated by other former OT8 Scientologists, along with other truths, including the idea that the authors of the Bible got the concepts of good and evil backward. Oh, there you have it. You know. So
bad is good and good is bad.
Yeah, so that was the original version, but when it didn't go over so well, shocker.
Yeah.
You know,
there was an edit, a remix.
Yeah, so Scientology reportedly backed down and modified the big reveal. And basically, you know, it's just that you are yourself. You know, there's just kind of this ending bit of it. And other Scientologists have said that this final level was more about the money than the reveal.
Yeah.
And
Mike said it's the opposite of an oh my God moment. It's more like, yeah, the truth of the matter is the end result of all of this is to be told, it wasn't any of that. You weren't any of those things. Yeah. Sorry. Now you get a chance to find out who you really are. And he said the final carrot is you will find out who you really are on the OT9, OT10 tracks, but they don't exist because Hubbard died before he ever wrote out the quote unquote plans for that.
Yep. And so what happens now, and this is what a lot of ex-Scientologists say, is, you know, you're on this cruise ship, you know, because that's the only place you can get this is on free winds. You got nowhere to go.
Yep.
They got any semblance of an ID, so it's not like you can just run off port or whatever, but that's what they all did. They escaped at one point or another. But you're surrounded by these ethics officers and other Scientology higher-ups, so to speak, and they just basically pressure you for more and more donations.
Yep.
And that's where you're into the grift. You know, like if you haven't figured it out all the way through there, you're in the grift at that
Leah
point.
Was saying not only was she paying for herself and the members of her family to make their way up the bridge, that they were also required to buy the re-edits of the books.
Yeah.
And they were also required to make donations. You know, she goes, there was always some building fund that we had to donate into.
Oh, yeah.
She was like, it was easily $1 million a year just to be in it. She's like, just to be in it.
Yeah.
She goes, and I'm a celebrity. She's like, I could afford to do that.
Yeah.
She goes, there were plenty of people who mortgaged their homes, maxed out their credit cards, lived well below their means, and still didn't get any sort of respect or rapport that they should get for their quote unquote spot on the bridge because, you know, they weren't putting money into those things or, you know, because they couldn't.
No, and this is where, you know, I know there's other people that are sitting there saying, well, every religion's like that. And it's like, no, they're not. You know, this is funneled solely into them. You know, and say Christianity, for example, the wide berth of it, I'm including all denominations of it. You know, there's the collection plate that goes around and you donate money to that for the church because, well, you sit there and but you still you don't have a gun to your head to do that. You could go to church every Sunday, every day and not pay a penny.
Yeah. There are people that do it.
And there are people that do that, you know, and there's no shaming. There's none of that stuff.
You're still a member of the congregation.
You're still a member of the congregation. You know, as you sit there, you look at yourself and, you know, I mean, if you're remotely becoming a decent person, you look and you say, well, yeah, there's all of this here.
Yeah.
You know, I might as well just get some money to it. But even that, like with Christianity where they talk about, you know, giving alms and things like that, it's to other things.
Yeah.
You know, so you have that ability. You have to say, okay, yeah, I do want to donate my money.
Right.
And I can donate it wherever I want, either through the church's charity or not the church at all.
Yeah.
The church is fine with that.
Yep.
The church will, if you're in a good church, and this is how you find out if you're in a bad church, if they say, no, you got to funnel everything, get the fuck out of there.
Talking to you, Jehovah's Witnesses.
No, just get the fuck out of there. You don't belong there. You know, you can go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And every town has plenty of churches.
Yeah.
You know, shop around. If, you know, you like that type of community, but if you see those types of things like Scientology, like I said, it's brilliant how they've done all this. It's the only brilliance of it is the manipulation of it. You know, if it was as brilliant in everything that it promised to bring people together and bring peace and harmony, if it had that equal brilliance, it'd be amazing. But it's brilliant in all the wrong reasons and all the wrong ways.
Yeah.
And at some point, you know, I mean, like you talk to Mike Rinder, you know, like you read his books, you listen to his interviews and everything. All these people that are in OT8, you know.
It's OT8 when people bounce.
Well, no, but even like OT3 and up, everybody knows it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Everybody does. But they're all playing the game at that point.
Yeah.
And again, that's why I'm so glad we're leaving fair game for last, because that's what keeps people in Scientology.
Yeah. Is the fair game.
Yeah. So if you're still sitting here saying, I just don't understand how someone could stay and go through all this and spend the money, fair game is the ribbon on the present that we're doing for all of this. And
fair game is the reason.
And
that's the reason why they're staying.
Yeah. You know, and we're lightly getting into it now where it's the isolation, but it's still the collective we.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is, you know, and there's a lot of things that do. The communist governments do this.
Yeah.
It's the collective we, but we're going to separate y'all, you know, because we need all of you fighting.
Right.
You all have to narc on each other. And again, that's getting into fair game, but, you know, you all have to, you know, I can call you my friend, but I also can't trust you.
Yeah.
With my inner secrets, because my inner secrets could banish me from what little existence I have in here as a semblance of some sort of community.
Yeah, that's why the comrades narc on each other in order to maintain favor.
Yeah. And so, you know, you think about this. They go through all of this, and even if you drank the Kool-Aid, you know, I marvel at where people can go in their belief structure. It really, like, it blows my mind. And here's an example. You know, I remember listening a long time ago to Mike Rinder, and he was talking about when he left and just how Scientology just got right on him.
Yep.
And just, you know, full, both barrels all the time, full court press on him. And, you know, basically they throw this common technique out, and they called him a vicious wife beater.
Yep.
They called him a deadbeat, and they called him a father from hell, which none of those have been proven.
Right.
They just go out and say it. But here's my thought on it. And this is originally when I first heard his story. I'm sitting there thinking, you know, here's a guy who made it through all the levels. He was in the highest ranks of the organization.
He was.
I mean, literally the highest level aside from running the whole entire thing.
He went so far as to say in his book, A Billion Years by Mike Rinder, that were it not for David Miscavige and his abuses, he never would have left. He would have stayed.
Yeah. No. And so this is my question to any Scientologist, how does a wife beater, a deadbeat, succeed in Scientology to the level he obtained?
Yeah.
How's that possible?
Yeah, that would have meant they were encouraging all of those things because he was a great Scientologist.
You know, so furthermore, how does a Scientologist become a father from hell? That's what I'm getting at.
Right.
When he's not even supposed to be near his children when growing up.
Yeah.
You know, this is simple math stuff. And again, this is where cognitive dissonance, where you're just like, yeah, no, that doesn't make sense, but it's all about the greater good. We're healing the planet.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, it's Scientology's responsibility to raise the children. So, you know, it's not hard to poke holes into the scam.
No, it's not.
You know, it's easy.
It is.
This is, I think, what's made Cult of the Month and Cults so popular, because this is our most popular subject on this show.
Cults.
It's amazing. Yes. You know, and I mean, a lot of people listen to the other stuff, but man, we throw a cult out, and man, I mean, it just, it spikes right up. And, you know, we thank people for listening, and, you know, we hope you check the other stuff out too.
Yeah.
But the cults is, you know, people are really interested in it. And I'm glad they're interested in it on this level.
Yes.
Where we break it down and we break down the science and the psychology and the method and the madness of all of it. Because it doesn't just, you know, you could be this person.
Well, it's funny because you and I have stated several times now, after working on so many of these cults and, you know, detecting the patterns and seeing the type of person that they're after, their prey, if you will, that when we're out in the world, both of us are like, I know there are times when I'm like, oh, honey, I hope you have a really good relationship with your mom and dad, because they will be the ones, if someone comes up to you just in general, and you're really jazzed about something, and you're, you know, like veganism or CrossFit or whatever, and you just can't shut up about it.
Yeah.
If someone says to you that you're in a cult or that's a cult, instead of lashing out at them, people don't just say that to say that. Usually there's some sort of something that you're saying or doing that is alarming.
That's the tough part, though. That's where a good cult is already in the hooks. Because if you're bragging about it and you're raving about it and someone says, you know, it doesn't sound right, the cult's already got you saying there's people that aren't going to understand what you're going through. And it's before all of that. It really is. This shit is crafty as fuck. It really is. And
this,
here's
to me,
the problem with
is
cults.
the most conniving and the most deceptive and criminal practice.
Yeah.
Because it's
mind control.
Yeah. Unless
at its finest.
Unless you kill your followers or you're pretty much left to your own devices, and you can affect, and I do mean affect, as many people as you want.
Yeah.
And that's I mean, talk about malicious.
No, it's scary. And,
it is.
And the momentum, once it gets going, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
because there was this guy in Germany this one time where
at band camp,
where he was left unchecked, and I don't know, millions of people died.
Well, yeah, but also, you know, this is where...
And then they were like, wait.
No, but I might not be popular in saying this, and, you know, really don't care. It wasn't Hitler that killed everybody.
No,
it wasn't Goebbels that killed everybody.
It was everyone else.
It was everyone else that did that. You know, even those camps, like, I remember talking with somebody about the concentration camps, you know, and they were sitting there and they were just like, yeah, whoever ran those camps were evil people. I'm like, it's the whole fucking town next to the camp.
Everyone knows what's happening in those camps.
They didn't have these camps in a fucking... In a metropolis.
No.
You know, they didn't have it in a city.
No.
They had these out in the country.
Yep.
And then the problem is there was a town that was already struggling because the country's at war.
Yep.
And in order for them to eat and provide, they had to keep their
mouths shut.
They had to keep their mouths shut, and they had to toe the freaking line.
Yep.
Because if not, they were going to get taken care of.
Yeah.
And now the problem is you've got your neighbor who's saying, look, dude, don't fucking ruin this for me.
Yeah.
I got a good thing going on, blah, 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 whatever. Just fucking fall in.
Yep.
And the moment you start hearing just fucking fall in,
you
know, there's only, again, this gets back to the psychology that we do with all this, where you've got 7 people convincing one other person that this line is a small line when it indeed is a large line.
Yeah.
But they're like, look, I'm not going to fucking disturb this.
Yep.
Okay, fine, everybody. It's a long line. And if they're willing to do that over the length of lines, what's going to happen when you got troops coming through?
Yeah.
You know, I always had to laugh because, I mean, you know me, I'm not like the huge doomsday prepper. You know, but I like being prepared, and I like listening to all of them and all that stuff. And some of them have good tips with things like that.
You are the Billy Goat from I Was Prepared. Hoodwinked.
Hoodwinked.
You're him. You're not doomsday prepper with your bunker and you know, 800 years worth of food and beverages.
No, I got to laugh when I see people in their house with all this. It's like, you got to be prepared for stuff. It's like, dude, the level of what you're talking about, there's going to be a group that's going to come in and take
all your shit.
All the shit you have.
Yeah.
Whether you broadcast it or not. They're going to go door to door to door.
And they're going to be like, jackpot, we found a grocery store.
Yeah. You know, and especially, you know, getting into, you know, I read this all the time with like communist governments and stuff like that. They'll go door to door because it's the collective we. We have to have everything. That's how they gather everything.
Yeah.
And so what they'll sit there is that you're being selfish, and they'll tell the rest of the community, this person was hoarding all this stuff while you were fucking starving.
Yep.
You know, and that's how it works. It gets the group against it. We're in this now.
Yeah.
Where we have groups that are purposely putting you at odds with other groups.
Yes.
And it's just for fucking power. Yeah. That's it.
At the end of the day.
And none of you are righteous in it.
No.
None.
No.
The ones that are leading. That just no.
Exactly. Yes.
You know, they're keeping the division. There's not one person that's sitting there saying, "Well, that group over there is sowing division." It's like, no, you are too.
Yeah.
You know, if you're preaching a message of love and love only, that's fine. But you can't say we're Paul of love, but if you're against us, I'm gonna fucking beat you down.
Yeah.
That's a stupid statement. You've lost your mind.
Yes.
You know, and
you're part of the problem too.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is where looking at the bridge, and the thing is this is really the model of other cults. But
it is.
But like you said, I mean, like if someone were to come and you know, they're really jazzed up about something, I'm trying to think like, yeah, you can't tell them anything because it's already in their head. You know, the more you tell them, you know, I think like the best advice I would give to somebody is like, hey, that is interesting. Can you give me more information on it? Mm-hmm. And start going in with it and, you know, start participating in it so you're not shooting them down. But then little piece through piece, you could be like, can you explain this more for me? Mm-hmm. And get into it that way. Yeah. And get to a point where you're having them explain this situation. And you could say, but isn't this contradicted to that? You know, right. And if they get all defensive, like, no, you see, they told me about you. And it's like, no, this is a good idea. You know, and just kind of work them out in that area. I think you could save some of these people, but it's tough. I think once you're in, you got to buy your own way out. It's kind of like addiction with drugs. Mm-hmm. You know, you can have all these interventions and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, it's them that they got to get out.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that's the bridge in a 1 hour nutshell.
In a nutshell.
And, you know,
I can save you millions of dollars. Don't do it.
Yeah, no, it's the best advice. It really is.
A good choice would be to not spend millions of dollars to go up the bridge.
Yeah. No, it's sad at the end of the day. It really is. But what do we got next week?
Lucky for us, we have our actual cult installment.
So for you cult fans, backs to backsies.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are doing Synanon.
Yeah.
That's my favorite spice.
Yeah.
I've been waiting. I've been waiting to throw that out there.
Yeah, like 10 months. That's yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Uh-huh.
Oh boy, the spice cult.
Yep.
So yeah, you big time cult fans, as I was mentioning before. Yeah, we got.
You get a BOGO this month.
You get a BOGO this month. So you know, looking good with it. So with that being said, rule number 1:
no Ouija boards.
Number 2:
no dolls.
3:
no games.
4:
no blood rituals.
5:
no cults. No bridges. No Satan. No Flavor Aid.
Number 6:
no apathy. You need to act to help and act a positive change in the world, in this world. You know, give someone your cart at Aldi's with the quarter still in it.
Sure, that's a good thing.
I did that,
and you made that person's day.
I made that woman's day.
Yeah.
And then I turned to Frank and I was like, I had dollars in my purse.
I think it's just the act of it.
Yes.
Number 7:
don't engage with black-eyed children, people, animals. If there's no white, if you can't see whites of their eyes, you go away.
And last but not least,
just listen.
Yeah. And I'm going to do this real quick because Jen has to go to the bathroom.
I do.
Yes. Please spread the podcast to all your friends.
Spread yourself out.
Spread yourself out.
Really explore the space.
Yeah, explore the space, you know.
Do so many activities.
Spread the word. We love you so much, and you're the best, and we're always grateful for you. So with that being said, have a beautiful day, a lovely week.
And make good choices.
Take care. Run, Jen!
I'm gonna!